men, what kind of low-grade sexual harassment do you face on a daily basis? Worked in bars and would constantly be groped by older women who thought it was funny. Also, as a Scottish piper, kilt lifting is a thing and honestly it needs to stop. Grow up. My bulge was a topic of open discussion between some of the women in the office at a previous job. The kicker is that one of the women was our hour and sexual assault harassment reporter. A female co-worker, I tell her, if she was male, she would have been fired multiple times for her behavior. She just laughs and says yeah probably. My mill assumes that men have this complete inability to control themselves and it is 100% up to women to not pursue attached men. I was not aware of this until there was a debate going on about such things at a family function when she asked me, the only non-old male at the event, to confirm her belief. The implication that men are practically wild animals and unable to control themselves is pretty insulting. This may not be a commentary on men's so-called insatiable urges in particular, but my in-laws and their friends have a pretty nasty mentality where they treat their husbands like pets and talk about them as such. The subject matter ranges from things like, I started him on a diet, because all men should be. They just can't be expected to do it on their own. I have my dumbass husband well trained. I've heard lots of other dehumanizing stuff like that. I may add an edit later if I can think of more notable examples. Maybe it's a New England thing, but I've never encountered it anywhere else. I'm lucky my wife sees how gross that is. But they frequently ask her things like, how did you get your husband to do chores? And the answer is simple, we treat each other like human beings. Not really low grade, but when I used to work as a lifeguard on the beach there was lots of non-consensual touching. The two that really stick out are the middle-aged woman who walked up to me like she had a question, then got a hold of my dick through my trunks because she wanted to see how big it was, and the 16-year-old girl who backed me into my stand and shoved a Skittle into my mouth with her tongue. My 55-year-old co-worker somewhat resembles Ursula from The Little Mermaid. That hasn't stopped her from asking me if I think she's pretty, asking me to take her home, and telling me she sprays like a watering can. Yes, really. Edit, I should add that I'm 21, which I think makes it a lot weirder. I recently became a father and was working on a hit TV series. A female producer who is best friends with the executive in charge thought it would be funny to grab my stomach and say, working on your dad bod already. My daughter at that point was 1 week old. If I grabbed a woman's stomach and said she was fat or pregnant, I would have been fired. Well, I complained to make a point. She recently was promoted and I wasn't invited back after 5 seasons. One day I got a text message from someone I didn't know asking me to meet for dinner. I had gone to a new haircut place a few days earlier. One of the hairdressers, not the one who cut my hair, had seen me and decided it made sense to look up my phone number from the client records and ask me out. I had no idea who this was. It was so weird. I got several more messages from her before she stopped messaging me. Never went back to that hair place. A nurse did this to me once when I went to the hospital. I was sitting in the room and she came back 4 or 5 times to do things in the room. She was not even the nurse who came to see me first. Then she said I looked like I did be in a band and asked if I was, and I said yeah. Previously, at the time, my Facebook header was of me when I was in a band years prior, but I didn't make the connection because I didn't think of someone looking me up from my patient name. When I got home, I saw that she had sent me a friend request. Really inappropriate and weird. I used to have some pretty decent moves. When some guys would get really drunk they would beam dip me and touch flick under my moob, which started to get embarrassing. I'm around 6'7", but I'm super nice, so people think that they can get away with it. So I decided that when a guy puts his hand on me or fix my moves or whatever, I take that as an invitation to put my very large hands on them. Now when there is a moob flick or anything like that, I go ahead and exclaim, oh heck yeah, and I excitedly and semi-aggressively grab their chest with both of my large hands. Nobody flicks my moves anymore. Had a female work colleague sit on my lap during my lunch break asking for help, batting her eyelids. Now I wonder what would happen if I would have sat on her lap. This happened to a guy at my work. He is 50 married with 3 kids. We were having Friday drinks after work. At work. Liquor retailer. The girl was about 23 and very cute. She decided to sit in his lap. In front of everyone. He got up very quickly and left. His wife sometimes worked for us. And so did his sons. He did not invite this attention. She thought it was funny. Getting physically and verbally assaulted by women in nightclubs and then being asked to leave because of it. Even with multiple people trying to tell bouncers what was actually happening, they will always just pick you to throw out. That is unfortunately an economics thing more than anything else. Women in a club attract men. Men who buy drinks and throw cash around thinking they will get laid. A club full of men does not attract women tossing around cash. I was kicked out of a bar once because we were level-headed. A drunk arsehole tried to pick a fight with a buddy in my group and we all collectively tried to calm him down and mediate why. This dude was angry at my friend. No real reason was stated, and I think he was just unlucky and this duck wanted a fight. Bouncer came up and was like, "Hey, I know this is shitty, but can you guys leave please? The cops are coming for the arsehole. It is going to be easier if your buddy is not here. Free drinks for the night next time you come. And here is a card saying as such." Dude was a total bro, and we pretty much became regulars after that. I was in the store and an old woman on a mobility scooter wanted to pass me, so I stepped to the side against the shelf. Instead of using all the free space on the other side, she starts turning closer to me as she passes, so my dick rubs all across her shoulder. She did a weird moaning sound at the same time. I posted about this on Facebook at the time and almost everyone thought it was hilarious. Got my junk grabbed and pinched once when I was in a public transport by an older, homeless looking woman. Everyone saw what happened and didn't do nothing. I was in shock and didn't know what to do, so I just pretended nothing happened. A woman who was celebrating her 21st birthday did the same to me at the bar. I left the bar to go home and she was outside crying. Obviously sloppy drunk. She had been dancing with a bunch of dudes, which made her insecure boyfriend super upset. I had no idea what the situation was, so I walked up and asked if they needed anything. She looked straight up at me and grabbed my balls hard. I backed away, obviously shocked, and she tried it again. Then the boyfriend started screaming, "Do you want me to kick his ass? Is that what you want?" And she sobbed even harder. I was so confused by everything. I threw my hands up, said good luck with that, and bounced. There were people all around but no one seemed pissed when she grabbed me. Most were laughing. Now, I have a 6-foot rule with drunk, crying people who I don't know. Dude, I totally get that. When she grabbed me, I felt a shoulder twitch. I think that was me suppressing the reflex to slap her in the face. In high school, it became a thing. For an inordinate amount of time. To knee each other in the balls. It took me a while to realize that there was no opting out. After a few times of getting kneed in the balls, I decided to block with the cross junk thigh shield and slap them in the face as hard as possible. I became pretty reliably good at it. Well, fast forward 6 years, and that Pavlovian reaction almost got my ass beat after my own sexual assault. Yikes. Sorry that friend group ducking sucked. I hope you found a better one. As a child I was touched, fondled regularly by the female teacher and elder students. When I complained to the head teacher, she said that I should enjoy it because I'm male. I was 12. Any bystander would just assume I was the one harassing women, sometimes 10, 20 years older than me, because I would bite in defense. Schools was heck. In 2nd grade I was friends with this popular boy in our class. Every day at recess, all the girls would literally chase him around the playground. I never got into that because he is my friend B. That is weird. See, I'm not going to waste my recess time running. There is gym class for that. One time I sat next to him on the bench and he was like breathing heavily and I think crying a bit. I felt so bad about his situation. I urged him to tell the teacher. He told me that the teacher said to enjoy the attention. So messed up. Kid couldn't enjoy his recess time. He was getting harassed. And our teacher tells him to enjoy it. He cried so hard when I had to move away. I still think about him from time to time. Peter, I hope you are doing alright, man. I used to be a butcher when I was in my 20s. Every day was full of housewives making sexual innuendos, like I can't wait to wrap my lips around your sausage, or I really look forward to getting my hands on your rump. They also seemed keen to up the ante every time too. Every single day. I just smiled and carried on. But it was always uncomfortable. No idea why it is completely acceptable to them. I don't imagine they were like that to many other people. Not daily basis now, but when I was a nursing student a few years back, it was quite common that older female patients tell me that it was so nice to be touched by a young man again. Some even commented about their big old lady breasts and how most men do like that. Needless to say that I was extremely uncomfortable and disgusted. But I was about 20 years old and had no life experience. So I just accepted it as a part of a job. On the upside, I'm now biotech grad and medical student, and as I'm a little older, take no shit from any patient, male or female, and have zero problem to publicly shame every single patient who talks to a nurse that way. Edit 1. Holy shit. 12k upvotes. First time for me. Thanks. We'll do a few edits now to answer some frequent questions. 1. First of all, we are not talking about dementia or mental illness. This is something completely different. Of course, it is disgusting if someone is grabbing you, if he has dementia or not. But this is mostly part of the disease. I would compare it with something like vomit or urine from another patient. Of course, it's disgusting to get puked on, pissed on, or some other ungodly fluid. But it's not intentional, and it's most embarrassing for the patient himself. So nobody is offended by that. But we are talking about patients who are mentally fine. Who are just thinking it's okay to grab a 20-year-old by the dick and demand hand jobs from a young nurse. They are pigs. Male or female doesn't do shit in that matter. It's disgusting and everybody should be shamed about that. 2. We are not talking about buying patients, which would not make it okay. We are talking about patients in the ER or somewhere else who often seriously think of nurses as some kind of maid. I imagine it's the same kind of person who catcall girls and boys on the street and really think it's appropriate and something could come out of it. 3. My reaction today to this kind of behavior. Most of the time it is enough to just very loudly announce what they just said or did, and if they think this is okay, most of them will buckle down and are completely embarrassed. Most of the time this is the only thing that's needed, and after that they are completely fine. But there are other times where these people tend to discuss about it. It was a joke. You are a leftist, or in German Rotgram and Versifter Gutmensch. Don't be a pussy. And in these cases I like to make clear that although they are at the hospital, I don't have to do shit with them. Unless they are in clear danger. As long they are not in danger, I don't have to treat them. Period. When they treat nurses or myself in a way that is nowhere near okay, and I don't talk about simple rudeness or something like that. I talk about grabbing asses, demanding hand jobs, stuff like that. They can leave, they will come back. When they are healthy enough to grab a nurse in the ass, they are healthy enough to search for another hospital. For this, or my public shaming of the patient does not convert to other situations. What I mean nice as a nurse, or as a doctor. There are ways to treat a patient. Rudeness can be a sign of fear, pain, or past trauma. Rudeness is not the same as sexual harassment. A rude patient will have to learn to be polite. I will talk to them and maybe help them a little to calm them down. Before you make any assumptions that they are assholes, you have to get to the bottom of it. Maybe they are dicks, but maybe the last time they were in the ER they got treated horribly and painful, and it's just fear. Also, most elderly have problems to lose the power of the situation, which is totally normal. Too long didn't read. Rude patients may be dicks. Sexually harassing patients are mostly dicks. My grandfather was a nurse in the army. He told us stories like yours and many more. Such a shame stuff like that still goes on today. My grandpa passed away this past May, and I always begged him to write a memoir to detail his experiences as a male nurse, but he never did. I will share a few stories he told me pertinent to the question though. 1. He received numerous gay slurs for being a male in a female-dominated field. 2. Similarly, he had a high-ranking officer hit on his wife in front of him. 3. He was groped by patients and co-workers in front of other people sometimes. 4. My mom had kids chase her because my grandpa was a nurse, doing things like asking if he wore white stockings. 5. My grandma was also a nurse, but not in the military. Both were excluded socially by the other female nurses. 6. Lastly, at the time, many of the female nurses in the military my grandpa worked with were lesbian couples. My grandpa didn't care about that. If you could do your job well, you were fine in his book. However, this meant a lot of the couples wanted to stay together, whether it be in the same department or the same hospital. So more often than not, the male nurses were the ones that were required to move more often than the female nurses. There are many more lengthy stories. My mom and I are trying to write down all the ones we can remember him telling us. Not just sexual harassment related, i.e. one nursing student put milk in and forth. His best friend, who I consider a third grandfather, passed in June, and they shared many stories that are likely buried with them now. Remember to talk with your grandparents so their life stories can continue on once they are gone. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing for more videos.